Hey, what's up guys? It's Trevor Hagen and this is Beyond Transmission. Today we are in Macau, China, which is a perfect place to be talking about our subject today on Taoism since it is an ancient Chinese philosophy. If you've never been to Macau, it's basically a replica of Vegas, and I'm staying at the Venetian, which is kind of funny because it's like a Chinese version of Las Vegas's version of Italy. Pretty deep stuff. Now, it's crazy, but up until about a year ago, I had never even heard of Taoism, and now it's one of my favorite philosophies out there. I actually heard about it when listening to Wayne Dyer, and if you've never heard of Wayne Dyer, I would strongly suggest checking him out. He's an author, he's made a couple movies, just brilliant, very insightful guy to listen to. So, first and foremost, about Taoism, it's important to know that Taoism respects the concept of God, but stays out of arguments of definition of God. After all, it's not very productive arguing over something that's relative to each person, as each person carries with them a set of assumptions and perceptions when it comes to God. So, instead, Taoism accepts each person's view of God as being personal. The ultimate reality in Taoism is the Tao or the way. So, broadly defined, the Tao is the mysterious natural order of the universe, but in Chinese thinking, to give something a name is to assign it a place in the universe. And this can't really be done with the Tao as it pervades and encompasses all things. So the Tao has no characteristics, but it's also not nothingness. In fact, it would be better understood as everythingness since it contains within itself all potential characteristics. So in other words, the Tao is a concept to describe something that goes beyond our capability to define, leaving the Tao undefined, and a Taoist happily explores the wonder that opens up as a result. Now that's a brief introduction of Taoism, but let's jump on in and start talking about what Taoism is really centered around, and that would have to be the Tao Te Ching. The Tao Te Ching is an ancient philosophy written through poetry by Lao Tzu, dating back to more than 2,400 years ago. You can order the Tao Te Ching on Amazon, or even easier, just search Tao Te Ching PDF on Google and you can actually just read it for free online. A lot of the books have kind of broken down descriptions and interpretations and such, which might be helpful for a lot of people, but I usually just read it online. That's where I read it the first time. I continue to reread it there constantly. It's just kind of handy having it right there on my smartphone. The whole thing is like maybe 80 pages long, so it could be a quick read, but I took about 3 months to read it in its entirety because it is written in a way that requires some time to digest each chapter as its own thought. For me, the Tao Te Ching, it's like a poetic key to life, so to speak, and it does take some time for it to permeate. One of the things that I absolutely love about it is that it explains polarity in the most simple, beautiful way that I've ever seen, and it really helps you see your own path and be able to move much smoother through life without so much stress. Yin and yang are always in perfect balance within the Tao, and the goal is to keep these opposites in balance within our own lives. Now, as you read the Tao Te Ching, you'll learn about a reality that's being referred to that's pretty much impossible to literally communicate, literarily, or intellectually for that matter. And that is what completely liberated me, actually, when I was able to experience it. Now, I was reading this along with practicing meditation and a few other things, but suddenly it's like I was able to see things as if I was in the audience watching a movie of my life and myself, and I realized that the idea of me and everything else around me is but a perception of the dualistic body. I remember thinking at one point, wow, this is all one. This is all me, I guess. And we're only blind as we've become self-absorbed and experiencing life and the Tao subjectively. Like it says in the Tao Te Ching, approach it and there's no beginning. Follow it and there is no end. You can't know it, but you can be it. at ease in your own life. Just realize where you come from. This is the essence of wisdom. Free from desire, you realize the mystery. Darkness within darkness, the gateway to all understanding. Now, as you read the Tao Te Ching, you'll notice that Lao Tzu references the Tao as it or he and she quite often, and it kind of reminds me of the name Elohim, which, for those of you familiar with this name of God, originally translated to male and female in one being. But now in Taoism, it goes a step further, as it says on the first page. The Tao that can be told is not the eternal Tao. The name that can be named is not the eternal name. So in other words, if our brains can comprehend it and we can put a name and location on it, then that is definitely not the Tao. Which makes sense to me, because how could the infinite and ever-present nothingness and everythingness ever be able to be defined by our extremely limited brains and vocabulary? Okay, so now that you get an idea about what the field of Taoism is, where did this all come from? Well, the Tao Te Ching could be translated to the Book of the Way, and it really only has one author, Lao Tzu, which we know very little about, actually. Even the meaning of his name is uncertain, but most likely it would be interpreted as the old master or the old boy. I love the language used in the introduction to the Tao that actually talks about Lao Tzu, and it says, he literally left no traces of himself except for his book, which is the classic manual on the art of living, written in style of gem-like lucidity, radiant with humor and grace, large-heartedness, and deep wisdom, truly one of the wonders of the world. The teachings of Taoism is moral in the deepest sense. Unencumbered by any concept of sin, the master doesn't see evil as a force to resist, but simply as an opaqueness, like a state of self-absorption which is in disharmony with the universal process. So that is like a dirty window, the light can't shine through it. And this freedom from moral categories allows the master to have great compassion for the wicked and the selfish. And again, from the Tao, thus the master is available to all people and doesn't reject anyone. He is ready to use all situations and doesn't waste anything. This is called the embodying light. If you don't understand this, you will get lost. However intelligent you are, it is the great secret. So now, after you've read through the Tao Te Ching a couple times and begin to understand it and experience the deeper meaning of it all, I would say, you might have the desire to begin practicing Taoism in your own life. Well, unlike religions, in the usual sense of the word, modern philosophical Taoism does not require any specific form of belief or initiation. Actually, it would be pretty difficult to actually practice it in the usual sense that religion would have us practice it. But here are a few things you can do if you'd like to maybe begin incorporating Taoism in your own life. First, obviously read the Tao Te Ching and come to understand it. If it's a bit confusing to you in the beginning, I would try reading the writings of Chuang Tzu, since he tends to speak a bit more like down to earth, and he also has like a humorous perspective on Taoism, which is kind of a good introduction. Second, find other like-minded people that are also learning or maybe have studied Taoism a bit, and that'll also help you increase the pace at which you implement the Taoism into your life and start feeling the benefits. Now, if you don't know anybody personally, there are plenty of forums online that you could join and learn from, since there are, I think, over 20 million Taoists worldwide today. Lastly, and this is going to sound obvious, but start implementing what you learn from Taoism, from the Tao Te Ching, in your life, and just see what happens. There are a few things that you could start doing right away to implement a more Taoist approach to your life. And those are acceptance of your life, following your breath to find peace, and opening up a smile to enable possibility. Now, as simple as that sounds, you'll find how quickly your brain will want to complicate it. But just remember, it's about experience and not about the mind. If you can just follow those three actions, you'll actually be enjoying the practices of Taoism pretty quickly. What's great about Taoism is that it's simple, anyone can implement it into their life, and we can all benefit from its practices no matter which road we're on or where we're currently at in life. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this brief overview on Taoism. If you liked it, be sure to subscribe and leave any comments or questions below. I'd especially love to hear any comments from anybody who has implemented Taoism in their life and maybe what they have to say about that. Anyway, stay curious, you guys, and we'll see you next time.